Hello everybody, I'm Enrique Ainojosa. Just a second please. Great. And I'm a bachelor degree on systems engineering, and I have been on RDI on DevOps team for the latest months, and I'm very happy to share with you about a tool that I like a lot and is very useful for authenticate clients, users, and to use with authorization and authentication purposes. In general, is to use with logon services. Okay, so what we will cover here on the presentation. And the first one is talk about what is IdentityServer and the relationship with OAuth2, OpenID Connect, and what is the GWT, that is a token, and the grant types. These grant types is related to what way we will choose to use in our apps, because to use the identity server we have a exact match to use depending of the recommendation of the OAuth2 framework. Okay, and finally a demo that we will code a little bit. Okay, about the identity server, there is an open source framework. It is based in OAuth2, as I'll already talked, and this OAuth2 is a framework too. And this OpenID Connect is an internet protocol, and we will install it on our Nugget package on our projects, and we'll use as a tool. Right, there is the IdentityServer4. We will install a Nugget package, and it acts as a complete security solution for our project, software project, and it is licensed under the A-Page 2. Okay, talking about the IdentityServer4, it helps us with the authentication, that is a process related to determine if someone is in fact who they declare to be, and authorization, that is a mechanism related to access levels, granting or not access to create, read, delete, update in some points or into our resources. Great, and why we use the identity server? Okay, first one, I like because have a lot of documentation, is easy to use, and help us with manage the authentication for microservices, and is written in .NET. It's a Nugget package, ready to use. But it helps us managing and authenticating clients, issuing identity and access token, that are the GWT, that we will see more in depth, validate these tokens, and centralizing our security logon operations. And we create a part microservice and install the identity server, and it will manage all related to authentication and authorization policies and all what we want to create. And we can make federation gateway, that is when you make your authentication with a third party. For example, I will execute my login with the Facebook or with the Gmail Azure Active Directory, and so on. Here on the left we have the JWT, that is our web token, and it serves to communicate to our identity server provider that we are or not authorized or authenticated. This identity server is highly focused on customizations and help us to create our own policies and a lot of features that we can imagine, and can simplify architecting our microservices security issues, have a great control via APIs, is API friendly, and serves as a machine-to-machine communication, secure communication with machine-to-machine, web application, single-page application as Angular, Blazor, or native mobile apps. In general, help us protecting our resources. And other point that is not on the slide, but for example, on the 27001, we can include, for example, the multi-factor, a more strong multi-factor authentication, and some other kinds of single sign-on, logon for just make a logon in one place. This is great. Okay, talking about the OAuth2 again, there is the framework. The OpenID Connect is the standard protocol, and this OAuth2 obtain access for the third-party IDP, identity server providers, allow third-party application to gain access on your own behalf, and orchestrate the authentication approval interactions with third-party identity providers. And the OpenID Connect retrieve identity token, verify the identity of the end user via authorization services, in our case is the IdentityServer4, obtain basic profile information about the end user when authorized. This basic profile is great to obtain because if you are developing and you want to access a lot of information that are in other identity provider, yes, you can get this and use for registration purposes or whatever you want to use. And finally, you can use the claims to communicate information about the end user. The claims are things that we will see more in depth. Have a API friendly structure. We will see the endpoints for the OpenID Connect, and simplifies the JWT use, that is the token. Okay, about the JSON Web Token, it refers to open standards and is a self-contained GUI for securely is transmitting information between parts as a JavaScript object notation, and have the next structure: the header, payload, and signature. On the header we have the ID, the algorithm. Here on the payload we have the claims, for example the scope, your other API, your custom API, the client ID that we need to authenticate a client, and finally we have the signature that is related to what kind of encode we are using to make the JWT. Okay, and here we have a example screen that is a web application that we can log in using the third-party identity provider, Google. Okay, and here is an identity provider list, a popular identity provider list that are Google, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon Web Services, LinkedIn, but we have a lot related to Microsoft Azure too, and Windows Server. Now we will talk a little bit about the code flows. These code flows are related to the kind of our applications. For example, if we will develop web and mobile apps with client authentication, we can use the code flow. If we are using the single page application as Blazor or Angular and so on, when the client will not be authenticated and the tokens will be revealed to the browser, we can use the implicit flow. If we will use both we can use the hybrid that we can receive the tokens from backend and frontend independently. And this proof key I like to use is required for authorization code-based token request, and it's useful if, for example, someone get or catch your GWT, the token that have a lot of permission and scopes, and this person is not able to use again the same GWT because it doesn't have the proof key. Just the computer that executes the login will have the proof key, and this decrease the risk for the risk of security things. Okay, and now we are talking about the demo. We will start the demo with the next 3 points. We will execute a client authentication using client credentials and policies and claims. And the second one will be the federated identity that we will realize a login with the Facebook, that is a third-party identity provider. And finally, we will get a user authentication, and the authorization, we will do an authorization role based. Okay, let me change this. Okay, great. For the example, we need an application running, that is this one. Let me explain fast. There are 3 microservices. We have the packets, offline analyzer, and middleware. The packets generates a lot, millions of rows of information. The middleware will filter this million of information, and the offline analyzer will use the filtered information. Great. And the first thing that we need to do is include a new microservices here. I will include a new project. Okay, a web app project, and let me follow the notation. Great. Okay. Okay, now we have the project. Let me close here, and the next one is install the IdentityServer. IdentityServer4. Great. I'm installing. 22 million of downloads. This is great. Okay, now it's installed, and now we need to configure it. Great. I will copy the code and paste here for be fast and easier. And I will explain, of course. Okay, let me follow our presentation. We need to indicate that we are using the identity server provider right here, and we need to configure an identity server config class. Let me do this right now. Okay. Okay, great. And let me get the code again. That is here. Okay. Great. Let me explain this and import the classes later. Here we have on our project, let me enter again. Oh my god, what is it? Okay. On our project, we have here on the startup, on the dependency injection, and adding memory client. Great. We are talking about we will not use a database. We are using the in memory. And here on the identity server config, we have the get clients, identity resources, API scopes, test users. Okay, test user that is commented right now, and finally sign-in credential. And what is it? When we are talking about the identity resources, there are informations as profile, email, roles, and other kind of claims that we can use to authorize and comes from the identity service provider. And about the API resources, there are all what we want to protect, all the resources that we want to protect. We have 3 resources. Okay. And scopes. These represent what a client application is allowed to do. Let me get here the scopes. Here this client is allowed to access to your custom API, your other API, OpenID Connect informations, the profile information, in the rows. Okay, and the client, it will inform to our IdentityServer4 what application is allowed to use the identity service provider. And finally, the sign-in credentials. We are talking about a temporary key material for development purposes because we are using the DWT, and it makes some code and decode and encrypt. And right now this encrypt, we are using the developer sign-in credentials that are just here. There. Okay. Okay, great. Let's go to import the classes that we need. And here too is the second. Yes, okay. Great. Here on the client, to authenticate, we have the client ID, the grant types, that is important. This is related to the code flow that we already talked about. There is our secret. This is a ultra secret word, secret, and there is a redirect URL that I will comment. And there are the scopes that this client is allowed to access. Great. Let me run and see that nothing is broken. Okay. We need to set that the identity server is identity server provider need to start to right here, apply, and let me close. Close and run again. It is possible that we enter in some troubleshootings that is that we will solve. Okay, here we need to indicate that the debug will be different. We want to launch an ES Express. And here is not this part. I want this one. There is project. Okay, I don't know what's happening here, but the Visual Studio doesn't allow me change this. Let me try again. Project. Oh my god. Project. Okay, I don't know what happened here. Let me paste, save, and run again. Okay, there is our identity service provider. This is one microservices, this is other microservices, and the latest microservice. Okay, one thing that I will do is avoid to open a lot of windows. I will do here, launch browser now, no, and here, launch browser now, no, here, and finally here. Okay, great. Let me compile and enter right here, and I will test this get date. I'm expecting a lot of information. Okay, 200 is the status response, and right, a lot of information. Great. Now I will configure to this client that contains the get date and needs the authorization to access to the resource. Okay, let's go. Let me follow our steps just for not jump something important. Okay, we need the first thing when we want to authenticate a client is add the nugget package related to the GWT. Is this one? Yes, I accept. Okay. Now we need to configure. Here we have the authorization, but we need to authenticate to authentication. Oh, I think that I have keyboard issues, but okay, I solved it the other way. Great. Now I will get some code right here related to the bidder token, and I will explain. Great. Here we are talking to our client that we are authenticating with Peter token, and on this server, on this port, we have the identity provider that will validate our tokens, our request. Okay, we need to import here these validation parameters. For example, this one, validate audience, I will set to false, because if I set to true, it can avoid the use of the postman, because we will validate a lot of things. And talking about the identity server provider endpoints, there are all the endpoints that are already to use. Great. We will use this one, connect token and connect user info, but we have a lot of resources here, have a lot of documentation, and is really easy to use. Okay, let me continue here. Finally, here we are talking about some policies that we can use requiring claims. Okay, let me run again to explain about these claims and other things. Okay, let's go. Here on our resource, I think that here and get date, we need to indicate that, oh my god, we need to indicate that we will use the authorize attribute. We need to import this, and let's go. Okay, great. Let me see here. I will reload the page, and right here I'm expecting 401 not authorized, and that's right. Talking about the Swagger, I love this tool, recommend. Okay, 401. Now we need to authenticate. Let's go to authenticate right now. Here on the connect token we have the endpoint of the IdentityServer4, and we will pass our values that are here already prepared to send, and we are talking that we are using the client credentials. Our client ID is your custom API. We are using the secret password, and we are requesting the next scopes. Okay, let me see here. Is all okay? No, it's not code. Code is for other kind of application. Is client credential, and let's go. Okay, great. Let me send our authentication to get the token, and we get on 200 response. Let me see, let me inspect what is this GWT. Okay, here GWT.io. Here we can inspect, and we have the header, the payload, and the signature as we already commented. And here we are requesting two scopes, your custom API, your other API, and we are using this client ID. Okay, we have some other things about the date expiration of the GWT. We can configure it, but let's go. I'm copying this, and on the next endpoint that we have not access anymore, I will set the authorization bidder token. Let me paste. Okay, come on. Great. This bidder token authenticate us, and we can see a lot of information again. And let me change or apply the next policy that is right here. Client ID policy. It's quite easy to apply policies here. It's just pass the next parameter, client ID policy, with the name of the policy. Okay, the keyboard problem again, but client ID policy. Okay, this client ID policy is requesting for the claim client ID your custom API, but I say I will set the custom APIs, and let me see what happens. Is policy, just policy. Okay, policy equals to this. Great. Let's go. Here I'm expecting a 403 because we are logged, but the authorization mechanism is not enough. Okay, that's right. We have now the claim required. We have the claim. Let me see the claim here. We have the client ID claim your custom API singular, and here we have in plural custom APIs. Here plural custom APIs. Okay, great. And later we will use again this with role based and other kind of authorization. Go ahead to the next point. Let me see what is. Okay, we will execute on federated identity, federated authentication, sorry. Let's go. So to do this federated authentication, I will use on quick start, and is right here. I will open our PowerShell terminal and search for identity. Oh my god, IdentityServer for quick start. Quick start. Okay, and we need to get this line of code. And what is this quick start? We will get a user interface to use some endpoints here, and finally access to our resources authenticating with the Facebook identity provider. So let's go. Here we are on the PowerShell. Okay, let's go. It's loading. Okay, Okay, let me see that this is in fact that is happening. I think that yes, because we have two new folders that are the quick start on the page, and we need to configure again right here. Let me follow our annotations. Okay, we need to configure the static files. I think that we are using the static file. We're already using the static files because we are using the www root. Let me see that this is correct. Static files. Okay, this is okay. Let me configure. Okay, there is not anymore razor pages. Now we are using an MVC, other kind of architecture, model view controller, and right here we need to set to the MVC. Okay, controllers with views. Okay, let me see that is all static files and routing and MVC. Great, and let's go to compile. Okay, let me reload. Great, and now we have a user interface here. It's a basic user interface, but it's okay for our test purposes. And let's go to install the OpenID Connect. That, let me see, for time reasons I will use the same project to install the OpenID Connect. Okay, just let me see if we are not jumping other important information. I think that not. OpenID Connect. Okay, great. This is the tool that we will use. I accept. It's already installed, and here on the same microservices I will comment to paste the new code. Okay, let me copy and paste and explain later. Okay, let's go. Okay, we need to import some classes. This default scheme, challenge scheme, is related to cookies and the kind of things to make the OpenID Connect works. I will import. Yes. These claims I need to get for the identity model. I will install. And we need to import this one too. Okay, great. Again, we are talking that this is our server, this is the port that is our identity server provider, our client ID, our secret, our kind of code flow that now is code. Let me change here. Is not more client credentials, it's code. If we set client credentials, the identity server will respond with an error because it detects that is not the right flow, code flow. And here we are requesting access to your custom API and to the roles, user roles, and saving tokens. Okay, here we are mapping the roles because these roles are not arriving in our standard classes. We need to map. We're doing this right here, and I think that this is all that we need to configure right here. But to authenticate with the Facebook, we need to access the right here on the Nugget package. Look for the Facebook authentication. It's quite easy too. Okay, it's already installed. Okay, great. Let me get some code. That is this code. Okay, again we need to set some things on the dependency injection. Let's go, it's right here. And we are talking to our identity server provider that we are adding a new authentication that is the Facebook. Here we need to configure the app ID and the app secret. Let me get right here. For time reasons, I have already app I will use, and don't worry, I will delete after our hangout. Okay, let me copy here the app ID and the secret. Okay, I don't remember this. Okay, great. And okay, now we can test. I think that is all. Let's go. Okay, it's loading. And here on get dates, okay, I don't know what's happening here, but I want to copy this endpoint. Unauthorized client. Oh my god, we are entering in a troubleshooting. Let me see if I can solve. We are requesting for roles for your custom API, offline, OpenID. Just let me run again this. Here, secret code, your custom API roles, and here on the Facebook. Let me try again. Unauthorized client. What's happening? Let me see right here. Authorized endpoint. Request validation failed. Redirect URL. Great. We need to talk to this identity service third party, our external provider, where this provider will retrieve the authentication. And I'm using, let me see, this port. Okay, this port, localhost sign-in OIDC. Great, I think that it is the troubleshooting. Okay, it's running, come on. Okay, I'm waiting for you. Let me compile again. Okay, I will just okay, I will close here and run again, because there are not reasons for forget a fail here. Okay, and let's go again and try. Unable to obtain configuration from system string. Cancellation token. Okay. Let me see on the presentation if we already doesn't forgot something right here. Okay. It's possible that we doesn't copy correct. No. Let me try again. Great. It is already loading that we are trying to test. Let me see what happened. I think that was anything related to this app ID, because I copy and paste and compile, and here we are authenticating on the Facebook. I think that this occurs because I'm already online on Facebook. Let me get other. Okay, that's right. This one, and let's go. Great, this authenticate us. I think that we can get what claims the Facebook is retrieving. Let's go creating here a claims var in user, yes, user claims, select new object. Oh my god, this keyboard, but okay. Okay, this keyword is terrible. Just a second. Okay, type and value is enough. Let me get here and test. Okay, come on, let's go. Now it's running, and I want to get the claims from Facebook. Okay, we have the hash, the external provider, Facebook, and this value external. We can request things, other things as email here, depending of the time we can do this. But for a while, let me pass to the next point. That is, let me talk about this. Now that we already do a new login with the Facebook Identity Service Provider, we receive the next alert, okay, that we already do a login, that requests the next claims, the email, for example, at this time, and for this other one, more claims, that was the email and the birthday. Okay, and let's go to the latest point, that is the user authentication, role based. Okay, let's go. Right here, let me talk about this startup. We are using the in-memory client, but if you're talking about a real scenario, you need to change for a real database. For example, I like to use all that we are doing right now with a different database. For example, this one, the test users. Yes, I can authenticate with external providers, but in my application I have my logic, my own logic, and it's all stored in DB, in databases. Okay, here we have on the quick start a class, name it test users. Yes, on the quick start. Okay, and users, let me go to this class. We have some test users. We have the Alice. I will increase the security of Alice just a little bit. Okay, let me copy and run again. I will use this one. Okay, application, where are the cookies? Are right here. I will delete all and reload the page. Okay, now we are use a local account, that is the Alice. Okay, Alice is logged right now. but I want to request a row on the authorization. Is easy again, just write rows and Alice need to be an admin. Okay, great. Let's go. I'm expecting 403. That's right, there is an access denied. I think that is not configured, and return MVC page. But okay, that's right. Is all what I expecting. Is all that I was expecting. Okay, and now let me try again. I will include the admin role to Alice. Our time is ending. This will be our last example or demo. Okay, this is because the Alice have the claim that is the role. And let me talk a little bit about these microservices and authentication and API gateway. This API gateway, I like to use the Ocelot API gateway. And for example, we can do a mess up here. We can have a user interface, a Blazor user interface that requests things for the middleware, that the middleware requests to the offline analyzer, and the middleware requests to for the packet. And there is a mess up. We can do all clean and fast with API gateway. You can choose whatever API gateway that you like. I like the traffic and the Ocelot gateway API. I think that we don't have more time to install the Ocelot API gateway and makes the request things. But let me return here. But yes, that's all. Let me see if are not some question here. Okay, are not any question here? I think that no. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you a lot for spending time. Bye bye.